We're not baby RVers anymore. Now we're toddler RVers. Now that we've boondocked.
Welcome back to the RV Odd Couple. My name is John.
And I'm Mercedes. Long story short, we sold most of our possessions in pursuit of freedom, independence, and adventure.
Because life is so short.
It is. And in this video, we're going to share with you our first time boondocking. We're going to share the things that we did well and things that we learned the hard way. And we are by no means experts. In fact, we're the opposite. But I think that's what makes this so awesome, is that we're going to share that perspective, and hopefully you RV veterans out there can give us a couple of tips, because we still struggle just a little bit.
Yeah, with the help of the RV Odd Squad, we have advanced from babies to toddler RVers, we think.
Woo!
And just like anything else, you cannot know everything when you set out. As a matter of fact, we're learning that there's always something new to learn, right? But we did find out some things that we didn't expect. We're going to share those with you today.
So let's set the stage. We were in Western Washington and we were headed to Colorado in 4 days. So that is almost 1,300 miles in a very quick amount of time, and we had never done that before.
Right.
And so the first tip that we would share is prepare, but know that you can't be 100% prepared.
Exactly. You know, we've never boondocked before. Now, mind you, we started this adventure a little bit more than 9 months ago. But we've only traveled on average 3 to 5 hours or 200 to 300 miles each leg of the trip, when we would stop for 3 weeks at each location. This was the biggest hop that we were going to make since we started, and both of us had a lot of, I don't know, it was just weird anticipation and these funny feelings about driving that long of a distance with such a large rig.
So I found myself watching a lot of YouTube videos about learning how to do long trips and tips and that sort of thing. And that was really helpful, because little things like have snacks that have protein instead of solid carbs, meal plans so that you don't have to be eating fast food all the time. We got fuel the night before, we charged all of our devices. There weren't a lot of Passport America places on our direct route, so I had added about 4 hours of driving to save on camping. It was a terrible plan, but having the effort and the forethought and planning ahead of time does help a lot. So it all started when we looked at our traveling mailbox, and we have a letter from CoachNet, which is weird because we've never used CoachNet. Come to find out, with the purchase of a new Forest River, they give you 1 free year of CoachNet. We had no idea that we had CoachNet that whole time.
And Camping World failed to tell us because they wanted to sell us a Good Sam's policy, right?
So the day before we left, we're like, let's just get roadside with CoachNet. It's better to have it and not need it than vice versa. And we asked the lady,
when is it active, right? We knew we were leaving the next day, and she told us that it would become active at midnight that night. So we were covered. So, phew!
Yeah, so pay attention to those little signs and trust your gut.
Yep.
It's there for a reason. So then we set off on our journey, first day of this long trip, and things are not going right. It's taken us forever to leave, and then the tire minder starts beeping.
Suddenly, we were getting a no 5 signal from our tire minder. We went to the booklet or the manual, and we saw that we needed to change the batteries. So luckily, tire minder sends you extra batteries. I went ahead and I pulled over off to the side of the road in a safe place. We replaced the batteries to all the sensors. So we kept on driving. What was strange about this trip is Mercedes and I kept pulling over every 15 or 20 miles because we just had this uneasy feeling, right?
Every rest stop, we took a break.
Every rest stop, we would just pull over and I'd do a walk around in the rig. And sure enough, we pull into one rest stop and I notice a big bubble on the side of one of my tires.
We didn't even have to go to the bathroom. There was no reason to stop at this rest stop, and the location of the bubble was not an easy place to find.
Right.
This was totally a God shot.
It's a God shot because when we pulled in, the bubble was sitting on a place on the outside of the tire that was up near the rim, but it gave me visual that I saw it right away.
And so he sees it, and he tells me later that for a split second he considered to continue
I considered her not telling Mercedes, like, oh, she's gonna make us get stuck here. We're only 90 miles into our trip, and I absolutely knew if I told her there was a bubble in the tire, she was gonna force us to stay. But better side of my conscious one, I told Mercedes that we had a bubble. And then suddenly we were really grateful that we had CoachNet that we had set up the night before. We jump on the phone with CoachNet, we tell them where we are, we tell them what we're doing. We ended up having to wait 6 hours at this rest stop.
But it worked out perfectly because think about it. We were parked on a rest stop, not on the side of the road. Had we continued driving with the tire the way it was, it would have popped either in Spokane or in these crazy mountains in Idaho. So we stopped at the best possible time. Then when we were finally on our way, we were kind of in a hurry and we were kind of trying to make up for lost time.
Right, so we had planned on doing about 360 miles each day of our trip. We felt behind the 8 ball, right? And it was a little frustrating sitting there, but it was certainly the safest thing to do. The other problem that we had is that when the tire company, which was Goodyear, showed up to replace our tire, they did not bring us the correct tire. We were running on F-rated tires. They brought us an E-rated tire.
I don't know why they thought it was a good idea to downgrade our tires.
They might not have had another F in stock, right?
Yeah, so if they don't make it right, we'll let you guys know. The other thing that we learned from this, hindsight is 2020. When doing long trips like this, it might not be a good idea to do them on a holiday weekend like we did.
It was Labor Day weekend.
We didn't think about that, so when we were trying to find places to stay, we did encounter a lot of issues because a lot of places were all booked. We did not plan on boondocking in this trip, but it just unfolded that way because the tire, it took so much of our drive time that we were just trying to make up for the lost time.
Yeah, that was probably my biggest mistake, right? We probably just should have stayed. It was around 6 o'clock when they finished getting our tire fixed. We probably should have just sat tight that night, but instead I was sick and tired of sitting inside the RV in the side of a rest area, and I wanted to get my miles in. So I made the decision that we were going to move forward and get as far as we possibly could and tried to hit our 360 mile mark.
So it's around 11 o'clock at night and we're driving through Montana and I want to sleep. He needs to sleep. And luckily we found a rest stop. We hadn't planned to stay at that rest stop that night, but we were so tired that it was one of those things out of necessity.
Right.
And it was probably one of the best things that could have happened to us.
I told Mercedes to go to sleep. I was going to drive through the night and just get us through this, but you know, she won that battle and I'm glad that she did. I was tired. It was probably unsafe to drive any further than we did. So we pull in this rest stop and there again, we get another God shot, right? Every space is filled except there was one space waiting for us.
And so we were really excited to officially boondock the first time. And I'm so glad that we stopped because I need John fully rested since he's the one doing the driving.
And when they say Montana's big sky country, isn't that the truth? There's no lights on the highways, there's mostly reflectors. And it was so dark by that time of night, we had no idea we were, right?
And when we woke up that next morning, we'll show
wow.
you. It was gorgeous.
It was unbelievable. Plus, when we pulled over and started setting the truck up for the night, man, I've never seen stars so big and so bright as I did that night in Montana. It was so beautiful.
So then the next day we set out, we had gotten some rest, and we changed our course that day. We decided to stay at a RV park that day. I couldn't find a good place to stay nearby with our Passport America app, but luckily John had downloaded the All Stays app.
Great app.
It is a pay-for app, but it was fantastic. So I was able to find an RV park, and again, another God shot. We got the last place
once again
available.
Labor Day weekend, right? And when we called this lady, she said we have one spot left, and I said, you know, can we just pull through without unattaching the RV? And sure enough, it was the biggest site that they had left, so we just pulled into that spot for the night and it was perfect.
The simple act of taking showers, being able to actually cook food and kind of reestablish yourself
and replenish our water, right? I was so concerned on this trip that I emptied my tanks completely and I only filled my fresh water tank up to 25%, just enough to get a day's through, right? I wanted to keep that weight down as much as I possibly could. So being able to stop in the middle of this trip and get showers and replenish our water, get our bearings right, was just perfect.
And the amount of time that we saved because John didn't have to disconnect the truck from the RV was awesome.
It was fantastic. You know, we pulled in, I put in my sewer, my water, my electricity, got everything charged up, replenished my stuff, dumped the tanks that we had built up, the black tank, for the first day's trip.
And that would be a big tip, I would say. If you're gonna do a long trip like that and you plan on boondocking some nights, I would alternate. Having a boondocking boondocking night and a hookup night and a boondocking night and a hookup night like that. It's so much nicer that way.
And now that we have the experience of boondocking one night, right? Because you can't plan for everything. I am finally starting to understand what my rig does now when I don't have sewer and I don't have power and I can't run generators and I can't open my slides, right? You can plan for that, but as you'll see coming up, there was a few things that we hadn't planned for. From now on, we will. And the next time that we take a trip, I think we can probably go maybe 2 up to 3 nights of boondocking in rest stop areas, right? Without having to do pay. Now I'm learning the limitations of my rig.
But what about the limitations of your wife? I don't know if I could go 3 nights.
It was fun. It was awesome.
It really was. And so we were still in Montana the next day. We did something insane. John drove through all of Wyoming in one day.
Yeah, we had just crossed the Wyoming-Colorado border. We found a rest stop that had 1 spot left. It was loaded with truckers. It was a great time to stop because it was around 7 o'clock at night.
If your vehicle is less than 20 feet, just because you have a tiny 5x5 U-Haul thing in the back, don't be parking where the RVs and the semis are.
Yeah, remember that most of these guys in trucks, they're working guys. We didn't even run our generator because we knew we were only sleeping there for the night. So we never started the generator up. And I had replenished all of our stuff, so we didn't really need to. It was nice, though, to open up the slides, you know, and move around our RV because it's our home on the road.
We did not keep the slides open the entire time because sometimes when semis are trying to exit, it can block their view. So we just opened them up temporarily. Another thing that we did that really helped out when we were boondocking those nights is that we used paper plates.
One of the things we did find out is that living in an RV overnight with the slides pulled in can be tricky. As much preparation as that Mercedes and I had done, we forgot to put the coffee in an easy locatable space, right?
Good morning.
Good morning. Our first night of boondocking at a rest area, and we just woke up.
I have bedhead.
I had trouble falling asleep, but Mercedes was out as soon as she laid down.
But we realized we made a terrible mistake. We had the coffee in a place where we couldn't get to because the slides were in, so we had to make
Open
some adjustments.
slides, yeah.
Yeah, he's like, there's not going to be coffee this morning. I'm like, that's not an option.
So she forced me to open the slides to get at coffee. Mercedes has to have her coffee or she's kind of grumpy.
Slightly. You're a good husband.
Thank you, baby.
You're good. You're good to me. So yeah, don't just prepare the food. Make sure you can get access to the food. And another thing that we did is we did instant coffee that time, which that helped. So there was less dirty dishes.
The fridge is easily accessible without opening up the slides, but the kitchen drawers are totally inaccessible until you pop those slides out. So baby steps for us. I'm so grateful that we didn't decide, let's go out and boondock for a week, right? We're doing it just the right way. We went out, tested it for a night, then we took a break in a nice park for a night, and then we boondocked again. And I think we're ready for 2 or 3 nights at this point.
And so now I want to talk about the 3 things that we loved about boondocking and then the 3 things that we did not like about it. So the first thing that was awesome about boondocking for the first time is that it was so exciting. I feel like I finally lived.
Yeah, we were on an adventure together. We were going to brand new places neither one of us has ever visited before. So it was an adventure, right? We're a team. We were together. We were going out into the unknown and we were going to work it out and figure it out as we go. We were both a little stressed out starting out because we have never covered that many miles before, but it kind of added to the adventure, right? Of both of us having a little bit of fear and anticipation, but as a team, we got through it together.
Well, and that's the second one, that we were a team, and I think that was so good for marriage because it just brought us so much closer together.
Yeah.
And speaking of being closer together, the final thing that I absolutely loved about boondocking is that I was sleeping in my own bed.
Yeah, man, remember, when you RV full time, your home is with you. This is a really cool concept, right? Our bed is with us wherever we go. And so it's absolutely wonderful having your home and all your belongings with you no matter where you go because you know where everything is in an RV. One of the things that is a little uncomfortable is sleeping in a rest stop, right? Now, I'll tell you, when we were in the middle of Montana that first night, there was probably more apprehension with that one than anything else.
If there had been no one there, my mind would have told me that there's a serial killer out there that stalks this truck stop and no one can hear me scream. So having other people also boondocking that night made me feel more comfortable.
Right, and remember, as soon as I got Mercedes and the baby in the house and I got Skippy all set, my job at that point was to protect my family for the night, and I thought of everything. One of the things that was a struggle is the RV was really hot because we hadn't been running AC in it all day, so I immediately opened the windows, but I knew only to open the windows and lock them at a certain level so somebody can't get inside the windows. I went ahead and set up Skippy's blanket right in front of the door so that he would sleep right at the door. I also went ahead and I had already had a pre-plan on where I was going to keep the things necessary to protect my family. And also that night, I went to sleep with my fob auto start key to the truck. Remember, we're still attached. So if anything gets scary or hairy, I can set the alarm off in the truck, which is gonna alert my neighbors around me. I would say the other mistake that I made was I pushed it too far, right? We had set this plan up to get 336 miles each day. When we got stopped because of the ballooning of the tire and having to wait 6 hours, I got uptight. I wanted to be on time. I wanted to stay, you know, and so I made some decisions that I probably shouldn't have made.
Well, and knowing your limitations too, because you've done crazy 24-hour road trips in the past.
I was a lot younger, man. I'm realizing now I can't do the things that I used to do when I was younger. I could stay up 2 or 3 days without sleeping when I was a younger man. Plus, I have lower back problems and sciatica, so I can't drive that far before I start to become really uncomfortable in my seat. So I think I probably learned most from this trip is don't push it.
And make sure that you have proper sleep, not just the night before, a couple nights before, and all through the travel process. Thing that was not fun about boondocking was the resource management. So managing electronics, managing water, and that sort of thing was a little bit tricky. And it's just, this is an area that we need to continue to learn and improve upon.
Our rig, and we love it, it has a residential refrigerator, right? So I'm running off 2 batteries. When I'm connected to the truck or when I'm plugged in, it's fine. But I can only be unplugged for a certain amount of hours before our food starts to go bad. So everybody's rig is gonna be different, and you're gonna learn as you go. And what's cool about this trip is that I know the things that I need to learn now. I need to learn about how to measure my battery. I know which things need to be charged in the truck and which things I can't charge in the rig. I learned on this trip that a lot of my electrical outlets do not work when I'm not plugged in or running the generator, right? The only thing my battery's gonna run is some of the lights in the rig and the refrigerator and the water pump. Everything else won't work. So I learned that. So these are things that I'm excited about now, because when we did it the second night of boondocking, I was more prepared. Mercedes had her coffee already, right? For the next morning, you know, and I had the things needed to be charged that needed to be charged, and I knew what my limitations were with the resources that I had. The other major tip I would give you guys is I am used to sleeping with a fan. We got this Geek Air fan, right? And I'll tell you something, one of the nice things about being in the truck stop, running the fan kind of silenced the noise that you could hear. It's kind of like white noise, right? And the rig was so hot, I never, ever, ever would have been able to go to sleep. I could only open the windows to a certain amount, right, for safety purposes, but I was able to run this.
Yeah.
It's got 5 different levels of air, but this thing is amazing. I would highly suggest you get one. It was a lifesaver for us because we couldn't run our generator when we were stopped at the truck stops.
Electronics that are charged instead of them having to be plugged in made a big difference too.
As a lot of you know, Mercedes and I started training other couples on how to build their YouTube channel, right? We're trying to help more people. And recently we had one of our first students just knock a video out of the park. And we're so proud of the work that they've done. They've worked really hard at it. Take a look at Mountain Beach's video on the new rig that they purchased. Hopefully you like it. If you do like it, subscribe to it and leave them a comment and tell them how good they're doing.